All right, YouTube land. This is Jason Stone. I've got another interview, a Logos Bible software user, and this is my friend Jacob, who it was pretty cool. He reached out to me and said, "This is what I'm doing with Logos," and I thought you may want to know and share it with your audience. So I really appreciate Jacob. Before we even get into it, I appreciate you doing that. Anybody else who
Absolutely.
has some ideas or some creative ways that you use Logos, don't be afraid to email me or and drop a comment down below. Just let me know that you'd love to hop on for an interview. I have heard from users all around the world, literally, about how these interviews are helping them out with navigating the platform and becoming less intimidated, using new things within the platform. Like we just talked to Mike Colburn about specific collections and using those in AI search, and that blew my mind. And the number of emails and comments I saw around the unique way to do that was like very encouraging. So if you have unique ways that you use the software and would like to reach out, don't be afraid to do that. I'd love to host some more interviews. Today, though, we've got to focus on Jacob, and the reading plans will be, that's going to be like the star of the show. But before we get into that, one more thing is this isn't really like a training of how to use reading plans. So I like to say that when we queue up these interviews together, is this isn't really like how do you use reading plans according to, the support guides or something like that that Logos has put together. This is about how Jacob uses them. This is about how he uses notifications to stay accountable, to stay on track with his reading. And so we're going to get into all of that on desktop and a little bit on mobile, is what we talked about beforehand. So Jacob, thanks for your time. Thanks for showing us around the platform. And maybe before we get rolling with the software, do you mind introducing yourself and maybe talk about your Substack, your YouTube channel, and then what you're up to there in Montana?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, Jason, thanks for having me on. I watched Mike's interview with you, and that was actually what kind of got me started on this. So I'm super excited to dive in. Like you said, I'm in Southwest Montana, middle of nowhere, almost it feels like. But what I have been doing, especially on this beautiful place called the internet, is sharing more of my seminary journey. I'm a seminary student. As we're recording this interview, I'm literally like 28 days out from finishing that degree.
No
So
way.
I'm super excited. And that is part of why I reached out, because like I've been using the reading plans function that you've been talking about to keep myself from going crazy during
Mm-hmm.
seminary. But while I've been in seminary, I have two main platforms that I share some of the work that I have done while writing, and also some of the things that I've been learning, because theology is not meant to be the left in an ivory tower. It's meant to be lived out. Good orthodoxy doesn't mean anything unless you're providing and practicing good orthopraxy. That's one of my things that I keep in mind all the time. So I have a Substack where I share more academic focused writing. So you're going to see citations, you're going to see things that look more like a review or, a journal entry. And then on YouTube, I try my best to do more of the pastoral heart focused things, telling the everyday individual how to do theology. And the three things that I try to keep
Awesome.
in mind is like live or think deeply, live faithfully, and reclaim wonder. So that's what
Hmm.
you're going to see on, especially on YouTube and especially on Substack, where we kind of take, I call it the head and the heart, and kind of combine those together.
Solid. Yeah. I'll add both of those links below in okay, is it theologetics? Is that what it's
Yes,
called? Did I pronounce
theologetics.
it? Awesome.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
a portmanteau of theology and apologetics.
Love it.
So it's kind
Yeah.
of like, hey, how can you defend your faith, and how can you defend it faithfully?
Mm, that's good. That's solid. Cool. I'll add those links in the video description here or wherever the video is posted. I don't even know where it goes. It's going to be in a corner under the video. I don't
Yeah,
know, something like that. It'll be
you'll
somewhere.
find it
Look around.
somewhere.
But yeah, it's going to be right here. So go check out the Substack for sure and then hop over to the YouTube. Do you want to get into it? And
Yeah,
I can set up a few mile markers while you go ahead and share your screen.
absolutely. Yeah,
Sounds good.
let us
So today
roll.
we'll be talking about desktop and mobile, and then we'll get into some of the reading plan functions and how to use that feature in your everyday life, I think is what we wanted to tackle together.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just start from, hey, when you launch the application, especially
Hmm.
we'll start with desktop and then we'll move over to mobile because you can create reading plans in both. And the heart is, especially for seminary students who, I mean, you probably are going to be reading 2 or 3 books for a class at a time, and that is, I mean, if you're lucky if you're only taking one class at a
Yeah.
time. So maybe you extrapolate that into 2 or 3 classes at once, and you're thinking maybe 9 books, and it's super hard to keep on top of things because it often becomes, an hour or two of reading a day during
Right.
a calendar week. So, 14 to 20 hours of reading a week. Good Lord, you're on top of maybe a full time job or
Yeah.
just other things that you're having to do for school or for work. It gets really confusing. And when we think about reading plans in Logos, especially reading plans just in general, I mean, you can see right here, like that's a Bible reading plan. Whenever you hear reading plan, it's about the Bible, and that is awesome. But
Hmm.
the cool thing that I have found within just the Logos application is that it's not restricted to your Bible. I mean, you can see right here just off the bat, like I'm reading through Kevin DeYoung's Daily Doctrine, and you can see here I'm behind. We'll get to that in a second and
Hmm.
how that keeps me accountable, like you mentioned. But I've got a few books queued up already, just to get through. So maybe you're saying, hey, I am in a systematic theology class. I'm reading through Millard Erickson's Christian Theology, which is a great systematic theology. I loved it. You can see here, you've got, like, if I go down to the final page, like, there's
Hmm.
1,100 pages in this, and it's super daunting to be able to say, like, how am I going to get through 1,100 pages maybe in a 16-week format? I have subterms in my courses, so it's 8 weeks. Like, how am I
Hmm.
going to get through this? And that's where the beauty of reading plans come in. And I can click the 3 dots or hamburger menu. That's actually not where it is. Tools. So I can go on the tools tab within a
There you go.
specific page or a specific book, and then right there, start a reading plan. And it opens up this beautiful predefined how many sessions you can get through based on
So
the
by
chapter.
default, it looks like it did chapters for you.
Yeah, so that's the
Yeah.
default option. But hey, maybe you're saying I have to read chapters 3, 4, and 5 this
Hmm.
week. The beauty is I can go to the Documents tab, can hit the blue New, and then about halfway down is the reading plan. And I can create a custom reading plan that I can title, just say, Christian. If I could, it always is so funny that you can type when you're not live and then when you hop on
I
there.
typed just as bad whether I'm recording or not. I won't lie. It's like brutal.
Yeah, I totally feel that. But so I can go ahead and create a Christian theology reading plan. And if I want to go ahead and we'll just say, all right, cool, I need to read chapter 3 tomorrow. So I will select choose an open book. I'm on page, or first we'll say, hey, I got to read it tomorrow. I've got Christian theology open.
I
The hard
actually have
part,
completely overlooked that you can start a reading plan from open resources.
yeah,
I've never
it
caught
is
that before.
cool.
So,
But one thing that I guess I didn't remember is if you just select, hey, I need to read one page,
hmm,
there's that. But what you can do, I'll go ahead and drag this to this tab right here. So
yeah.
I can go ahead and just copy, can scroll
So
down to
you're
the very
just,
bottom of the chapter. I can
yeah.
copy this. I can click. I can drag to that new tab. Or
And logos crashed.
I should have been able to. Oh, it's funny.
I didn't know that you could do that. So you can select text and drag it over. Well, it pops
You
up. That's
can.
okay. It happens. So you select the text and drag it over, and it will create a section of that resource in your reading plan.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and get this back open.
Yeah, that's okay. That's no problem that that did that. I mean, that's Logo's just fault, not yours.
Yeah, that was I haven't had it crash on me in forever, which is really
Yeah,
funny. Um, there we go, and then should have that one
yeah.
right there. So I will go ahead and edit this. Maybe I'll just hopefully this won't crash. Try that again. So maybe you need to
Yeah.
actually read chapter 1 tomorrow. And then you say, "Hey, I only need to read chapter 1. I yeah, and I don't need to read anything else." So I'll click and drag and we'll see if Logos does not like me.
All right.
Uh,
So it doesn't like this feature, or it doesn't like this step right now.
it doesn't like it, but that is something that you can easily do, and I will show you how I have done it already with this reading plan because I had to
Sounds like a
build.
nice. I will report the bug. It sounds like a nice report the bug feature. Okay.
Perfect. So I built this specifically using this order of operations where
Yeah.
you create a reading plan, you drag and drop each of your options in there, and then can build it out.
Yeah. So on the reading plan, it looks like it says selection, and that's likely because you selected text and then dropped it over there. If you look next to each date, next to
Yep.
each, yeah,
Yep.
particular reading.
So
That's awesome.
and that's really cool because when even moving into the more, hey, I'm going to do a devotional style reading plan, which this workflow applies to whatever book you want to use it for in Logos. The way that Kevin DeYoung designed Daily Doctrine, it is for weekdays. So there are 5 reading sessions per week. Now, obviously, if I were to hop in and read, just straight through, he's only got 260 entries. I would not be able to
Yeah.
make it through the entire year.
Yeah.
So when you are building out your personal reading plan based on a book, you can select the date that you want to add an entry to. And you can be very specific about where
I see.
you want to have a reading live. There are some options. Let me see if I remember how to get to this. So I can generate a reading plan and I can select, hey, I don't want to read it every day. I want to read it every weekday.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, hey, I'm not trying to read 7 days a week. Maybe it's a book like this and I just want to do it every weekday. I probably could have done this exact workflow for this book. I just did it the difficult, hard way.
Well, you also, I mean, it may or may not break it up into the sections
Exactly.
as DeYoung wanted it to be. And
Exactly.
So I'm tracking with you. Yeah.
Because it might pull in that you wanted to read the introduction,
Mm-hmm.
and that ends up skewing it pretty weirdly.
Yeah. But this is great. I had no idea. This is good.
But yeah, and that's not the only place that you can do that, which is pretty cool because I can do this on desktop, and I apologize if this is going to be a little bit on the smaller side. I can't scale, unfortunately, when it comes to iPhone mirroring.
Okay.
Let me see if I actually that's about as big as I'm allowed to get it. So
Yeah,
I'll bring this.
No, it's good.
So if I were one of the books that I'll get to that in a second. So if I'm
Okay.
opening into the Logos mobile app, this is the view that you get on both iPad and iPhone. I believe, I don't quote me on this, but I think that it's the same in the Android accessible apps. But I can also see here, hey, I've got on the dashboard reading plans that I need to go through. And I can touch on that reading plan. It opens up a new tab, and then I can see what I have available that needs to be read. I can go ahead and click read. And one of my favorite functions that I need to drop a feature request for desktop, at the bottom of the screen, you can see how much time you could be dedicating. to this reading. So
So if
today,
and like I'm having trouble reading that, so what does that say at the bottom under next to the finish button?
sorry, it says about 4 minutes of reading.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
So when you're looking at your device,
Right.
in that, hey, I'm going to tap to finish this. And yeah, that's just a content scaling thing, unfortunately,
Yeah.
that I
No,
wish
it's
that I
okay.
could
Yeah,
make larger.
I was just double checking.
But yeah, if that's something that I would recommend anybody watching try out, is just like, hey, what is that showing? Because if I go to my daily reading plan, I can then see, hey, I've got about 9 minutes left, or 9 minutes of reading to go
Yep.
through. And that gives me the ability, especially in options where I'm thinking, hey, I'm reading this seminary textbook. I'm trying to figure out how much time I should dedicate each day or
Mm-hmm.
for each session. That will be able to pop up right there. And I can use that information to block out my day and around lunchtime, maybe. Like, just for
Yeah.
instance, I'm a lunchtime reader. I enjoy being able to sit there and just focus because I'm eating and I'm being able to hop in to whatever
So
reading I have on.
if you pull that
Yeah.
up, you can take a peek and say, I know that this is going to be about 15 minutes. I do or do not have time for this right now. Really.
Yep.
You could be like, yeah, I don't have time for that. And so you can do
Yeah.
it later. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Or I can say, hey, I've got some of these books that I've been going through, like it's an hour of reading at a time.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, cool. I need to be strategic about my plans. Maybe I should build into my morning some reading time when my
Yeah.
workday might be slower. Or, hey, I know I have a slower afternoon so that I can hop in there. So it gives you the ability to
Man.
strategically plan out your day.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the other cool functions about reading plans, I've just pulled up a really great resource that helped me when I first started in seminary.
Yep.
Surviving and Thriving in Seminary, wonderful resource. Now, if you're primarily a mobile user, under the three dots or hamburger menu, depending on what your terminology is, you have the option to start a reading plan right from your phone or right from your mobile device. So I can select that. I can set my schedule of, hey, I want to read every weekday.
So I just want to clarify something because earlier when you were on desktop, you jumped to the three dots. The dynamic toolbar on desktop has it under tools.
As under
Is that right?
tools.
Okay. And
Yes.
so it's under tools, start a reading plan. That's where you find that. On mobile, it's under those three dots. So maybe they'll align those two in the future so that you know where they're at.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why
I
you
would
got a
love
little
that.
confused because
Yep.
you were looking for those three dots earlier. And that's all good.
Exactly. So if you're on mobile and I understand 100%. It's so much easier to take an iPad or a reader or a phone anywhere with you and be able to read on your device. So if you're primarily using iOS or some sort of mobile device over a laptop, starting a reading plan is just as simple by clicking those three dots, starting the reading plan, and then selecting how often you want to read. And like I was talking about with Daily Doctrine, I'm going to read it every weekday because I want to have my weekends to be able to process what I've read. Or maybe I want to be a little bit more present with my family. This is another way to be able to say, hey, I'm prioritizing everything in my life and making sure that the main thing stays the main thing while also being a good student or a good reader or taking care of what needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And when you're on mobile, you just hit start and then it automatically creates a reading plan.
Does it do a card on the dashboard? Or you don't have to manually add that, right?
Correct. It automatically creates the card on the dashboard on mobile.
Yeah.
And then if I go to, it creates it, or let me refresh. It should create it here as well. Sometimes my Logos likes to lag a little bit, but I can also go into, I think it's lagging just a little bit for synchronization. Let me I'll go ahead and manually sync.
Maybe that'll do it. Yeah.
It should. And then
Can you
we'll.
add from
Yep,
there it
there we
is.
go.
Surviving and thriving. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. No, I was just gonna say, could you add one of your documents to the dashboard as a card? Or can you only like if you click the plus sign right there to add a card?
So you can.
Or is it only create new? I feel like it's only create new.
I think from this option,
Mm-hmm.
you can only create new. We'll just. Yeah, so you can create a
Yeah, it
new
looks like you can
plan
only
from there.
create
And
new.
even if you
But
did go to the reading plan, it would
yeah.
only give you their predefined reading
Yeah.
plan
That's
options.
that's interesting. Okay.
But I do believe, let's try this live. I haven't done this yet. I think no, you can't you can't click and drag documents into the card area, but that's where layouts would come in if you
But yeah,
wanted
for
to,
sure.
which we didn't even talk about going into this, but I'll do this quickly. If I wanted to, so I have one class that I'm working through. So I'm doing some research on a theologian that I am studying. So I'm like, all right, cool. I have all of my resources here. Maybe I want to open up. So I want to open up his book, but maybe I'm like, I got to go do something else. I can go ahead and select layout. And then
Mm-hmm.
I have up here on the very first, like the most recent layout, I can save as a named layout. And that's for Theo 603. I can hit enter. And now
Mm-hmm.
if I were to close out of everything,
If
go
your
back to the
logo's
layouts,
crashed while you were trying to create a really slick reading plan,
something like
then you
that.
can pull
Yeah.
up your layout.
Yeah. I wonder, I wonder how that would work. I don't know. But yeah, so I can go ahead and go to the three boxes that are over near the right side of the panel and select three. I've also, I had done this already for, like, you're going to see all of the books that I've got to read right there.
Yeah.
But so, like, I have that already queued up, ready to go.
Are these that
yeah,
layout that you just had, did you create that for all of your classes? Those are all of your books on all of your classes, or is that just one particular class?
that was for both classes that I'm going through right now.
Got it.
So if I
Okay.
wanted to say,
Summer
hey,
class
like,
readings. Got it. Okay.
yep, summer class readings, because the reading is so sporadic, like I have to read Gutierrez his entire book right here in like 3 days. So I'm like, I'm not going to create a reading plan because that's just going to be like, I'm going to see it's 200 minutes worth of reading, which it breaks it down instead of the hour division. It shows you minutes rather than you've got an hour and 45 minutes left of reading. So that's kind of one thing to keep in mind with those.
I was asking
plans.
because I had done an interview with Steve Bentley. I think it was the first interview I did, and he did layouts for each class, which included a notebook for each class,
Yes.
and then the readings for each class. And he named the layout whatever the title of the class was as well.
Yeah.
But I think that's also a great way to do it. If you have your summer readings or even quarterly or something, this semester, these are my readings for right now, to create a layout for that.
For my, like, I was doing the notebook thing for a while, especially for annotations, just dragging and dropping for, like, for my New Testament. So I can go through all of, 4,000 note options that are across the spectrum of, like, hey, this is my, like, school reading, this is my personal Bible reading, this is just something that I found cool while I was reading through. Like, this one is specifically from what do I do when I don't want to pray, or don't desire prayer. That was just something that I was reading through transparently to figure out, hey, what does this mean for me? But then the next one up here,
is that what you do? You pray about it?
I try to. And then the next one right on top of it is for a school thing. If you're just looking through, like, what is going on here, if you've got all of your notes here, and then, I can
Are
narrow
those
it down.
not to go too much of a tangent? Are the color codes like one's personal, one's for school, one's for something different? Or
No,
I see
I have
red, green, and yellow.
a pretty odd color coding system. My green color coding is for just like insight. Yellow is for remembering, and red is for mic drop. Or like, hey, I
Really?
need to. Yeah, so like
Like this, it's hot. It's
it's
red.
it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I want to remember this because then I can, go in. I forget if you can color or like sort by color, which, yeah,
Yeah, you
that's
can sort by filter. You could filter by color. Yeah,
hmm. I I might need
it's
to.
up.
If anyone
It's
out
in
there
there.
knows how to do that, that'd be a great interview for you to
Maybe
have
just
on here.
highlighting in general would be a lot of fun.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, because I love like the Camp Lagos that the Morris Proctor team did. But yeah, that would be really cool to be able to see
Hmm.
how that works.
Okay.
Either
Noted.
way, I'd have a very unique color system. Like green is like, hey, let's like this is really cool. I didn't really understand this before. Yellow is, hey, this kind of like slowed me down a little bit. Red is like a stop in my tracks, like a stoplight
Hmm.
almost, I guess.
I like it, and that's why I like. I feel like I like the interviews because I can just throw those kinds of questions out there and be like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, yeah. And then there was a at one point too. This is another drop on the tangent. So like, I have been just like reading through. Yeah, so there was found this really insightful as a hunter myself, an outdoorsman.
Mm.
The first mention of God using an animal for man's good is Genesis 3:21. So I color coded it in a
Hmm.
specific color so that as I can, continue reading through and build, just not for like more on a personal level, not for like trying to produce anything, but a systematic theology mentally of, hey, what does the Bible say about hunting?
That's
Or
really interesting.
there was I using the highlights too. I mean, in like using the inductive morphology or the inductive preceptive, I think is what they call it.
Yeah,
Like this
inductive.
was, yeah. So this was the preset for curse. So I can go and filter through and say, hey, this is like these are the curses that I've come across.
Yeah.
Um, and was doing a church government paper at one point. So anytime I found some sort of mention, like I think it's Exodus 18. Yes. So Exodus
Mm.
18 is where Moses and Jethro are talking, and Jethro says, you need to have a leadership layer, essentially. So I highlighted that in a specific color so that I can come back to it at some point in
Yeah.
my research. And then that's where I would also use the notes to tag and drop it in. And you can see
Right.
that, there's a specific, hey, this is for my Old Testament readings and, so on and
Yeah.
so forth. I think pretty simple to
I love it.
Logos is give me the wheel of death on that one.
And there's a way to sort it, and we'll figure it out.
Yep.
There's a way.
Yep.
Somehow. Someone will tell us, or we'll just figure it out after we hop off. But
Of course, that's how it
this is
usually goes.
solid. Appreciate it, and I appreciate walking through reading plans. I feel like all I've ever done is set it and forget it, and then forget about it. I feel like I've
Sure.
always uh, like because after a while the notifications are like, all right, stop judging me,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah,
I know,
exactly.
yeah, I'm glad that you kind of like made me less afraid of them. I'd like to start a new one. I actually added in the background. I won't lie. I added Daily Doctrine to my cart because of you. I was like,
Well, I
what is
appreciate
this?
that. Yeah.
What is this? And
It
so
is,
yeah, I'll be checking that out.
and
And
it's just like Kevin DeYoung doesn't know me from Adam, but it's such an easy. If you're like, hey, I
yeah,
want to know the Bible more. I want to understand it. Yes, he comes from a specific tradition that may not be the same as you,
yeah,
but it's a very big help on understanding like just the things. He doesn't necessarily advocate for a denominational position. He's just very clear and direct in his
More
outlining.
like Millard Erickson, kind of like
Yes.
just a general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
well, good stuff. I really appreciate your time. And I know that there are a few things that we're going to circle back on, like the highlights and sorting those. But I'll be like dropping some comments in the video comments and then in the description to kind of like close some gaps on that. But I'll also, before we wrap up, want to circle back to your Substack and your YouTube. So obviously you're a thinker and you're intentional about it and you want to move it to practice. So I would say to anybody catching the interview to check out the Substack and the YouTube, follow along. I'm excited to see where you go. I'm really grateful that you are just setting time aside to study God's word and then to share it as well. So keep doing that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for your time, man. I really appreciate the time and then the insight to reading plan. And I just, I pray that you're blessed, man. All right.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
appreciate your time too.